generators and Department of Health to help them get what they needed to keep running. And the other one that we had to deal with that incident also was the SPCA. That's one, and I'll be honest with, I forget it's there half the time.
Yeah.
Firehouse is right there with it, but it's quiet. Forget it's there. But we have to think of what animals they have there. You know, so when we had that power outage, they couldn't get water. We had to get them a water. We had to reach out to the county and get them a water buffalo. But then it's on the SPCA, so we can give them information. They've got to do the contracts and all. That's all. That's all on them. That has no
They
financial
must have a
bearing.
plan too, then I would assume. No, they don't.
They reach out for help, and that's what we're there for.
Yeah.
But you know, it comes down to needing the help, but also being realistic and saying, look, we understand a lot of people have families. They're going to want to get out of Dodge if something happens. Or are they going to be around? So, in a perfect world, everybody wants to help, everybody's going to stay, and everybody's face is going to melt off when LGS happens. So, we'll all turn into aliens.
So I think to your point that we are a small community, we are going to have to wear multiple hats. So being realistic as supervisors, we're not just going to be shaking hands and kissing babies. You're going to have to throw a hat on and help at some point.
Correct, but we have to find the one
Right,
that's
where it's
the
gonna be.
least impactful. If you guys have to step away,
Yeah,
that, you know, it's not gonna be, well, I need them because this is a priority position. It's gonna be one that, okay, they're here, great, they can do this. They're just pretty much doing information flow and check-ins. But if they need to step away and meet with Tracy, or we only deal with a financial meeting or whatever, it's not gonna fall apart and everything's gonna have to stop until you guys come back.
yeah. I've seen everybody, every local official getting dirty down there in Kentucky. Almost every single one of them met, and, you know, you met in the trenches down there doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and if, well, let's be realistic, if something like that happens,
Yeah,
90% of this is gonna be done out in the field. We're not gonna be here, the county's gonna have their command truck out, and we're not gonna have an EOC, it's gonna be out there and everybody else is gonna be working. And we'll work with the county on figuring things out, but as with emergency service, everything's in the heat of the moment, you deal with it as it comes.
yeah. And I think to Jeff's point, you know, not enough volunteers. So down there too, in like the back hollers and stuff like that, it was neighbors helping neighbors out. There's usually one guy, Billy Bob, who knew everybody, and he's like, man, I ain't seen Fred in, you know, hours. And you know what I mean? And then him and a group of guys from that area would go and look. So there's always one guy around here, and I'm sure you being here as long as you guys have, you probably have people that you could reach out to, you know what I mean? And see if they might want to volunteer as well. You know, moving forward, if there's a hat they want to wear, if they just want to be a community liaison to the fire department, you know, or to Tracy radioing in saying, hey, listen, we have an issue here. That's how I would think we were going to staff this, because we are a small community, much larger than or smaller than I was dealing with down there. And I think that's going to be crucial to help us in a situation like this, God forbid, whatever comes to fruition.
And to your point, that's how it happened. When we had that big storm here,
Yeah.
everybody's out doing what they can.
Oh, yeah.
Like to your point, some of them were just getting in the way. You gotta give them direction.
Yeah.
And that's it. If we reach out and we can find some people and get them to train, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's gonna help those of us. There's a lot of stuff they can be doing. They don't have to get dirty.
Sure. Sure.
But even, I think to the point of like the straight winds, if you have trees that are blowing down and they're across, you know, roads or whatever, if we have an increased connection to the township through text messaging, you could text hey, we need volunteers that know how to operate chainsaws, or we need volunteers to help clear trees out of what, I don't, you know, off of roads. You know, then at least we're targeting people that, you know, you're not gonna get certain people that don't know how to do that showing up.
Yeah, and while that's all well, you just have to be careful of the liability issues you throw yourself into too with that, because if you tell someone to go out with a chainsaw, yeah,
Yeah.
especially, that's why I would rather it be, you know, if you want to help, let's keep it internal, You know, if you're gonna use a chainsaw, do that on.
Organized with wires.
Yeah.
I was using that as an example.
No, and I'm just saying,
I got
I've been enough where I've seen residents out with
Example.
chainsaws and I'm watching the
You-
power
you
lines
gotta-
scraping and I'm going, please
it. Oh,
don't.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I think an information campaign by the township, I mean, you do have the resources.
Yeah.
We really have to take the burden off the fire company because they're gonna be out doing the calls. And I think there's a lot of people that if they knew there was a need, I think they would step up and get some training. They don't have to be the most highly trained people, but it's good to have somebody moderately
Yeah.
trained and no training at all. We do have resources. We have the newsletter, we have the website, we have the tax bills that go out. I mean, so there are ways to get a message out, to really get some more volunteers. And maybe we'll get some more folks in the fire company as well along the way. So, I mean, it really could work in many different ways.
So as far as, to Les' point, like with Ready Monco, that could be part of your announcements for a while as the supervisors' meetings at the end. You know, do a cycle of it, let's find something else then, and just kind of do a cycle of various things in the announcements. You know, just so it's out there in the public, but, you know, Community Day is a great time. Fortunately, again, person who wears many hats within the township. We have different things we can do, but, you know, even if it's having someone if we have a table put up and we have just, you know, information, postcards or whatever, how to get to the website or whatever, we just put it there, or we just loop it in with the fire company table and put it all in one, as an emergency services area type thing. But, you
Yeah,
know,
we can
community
measure
is-
how many, we know how many township people we have, how many people are in the township. We know how many people have signed up. What I don't know is that the only place they need to sign up from an emergency perspective is Ready Monco, or do we want our own
So Ready Monco.
connection?
So Ready
as
Monco
well?
will take care of everything, especially with the words of the township, because they're gonna say they're in Upper Frederick Township. So then that will drop them into our bucket.
And can we get to that information?
I
if
don't
we
know,
needed
so
it?
we have access
To know
to
who
that?
hasn't signed up?
Yeah, you
Kate
got-
does?
You're saying like a volunteer form
Well,
of sorts.
then you get to a point, if you say that you've got 80% of the township is signed up and 20% isn't,
Yeah.
I don't wanna be targeting 100% of the township, I wanna target the 20% that haven't signed up. And if it
Sure.
comes down to whether it's mailing campaigns, calling, or going to knock on their door, saying, hey, you wanna make sure that you're registered in, you know, Ready Montco, do you need any assistance to do that? But we should be able to measure how many people in the community are signed up or not, and that's what I'm asking, if they're
don't
in
know.
Ready Montco, do we actually have line of sight to that?
I don't know. I'll check with Kate. She handles that.
I know at my church, that's how I got involved with disaster relief in Kentucky. We have a response crew that goes out and, you know, voluntarily, you reach out to the church, you tell them, hey, listen, I got a big problem here. They'll be here in minutes. There's a whole crew of us that generally do it. And I know they would help out, but I don't know, again, the legality of that. Like you were saying earlier about the chainsaws, and we went to Kentucky with a Bobcat chainsaws, you name it. And we were taking care of business. We didn't have any-
Yeah, when you're part of an organization, they usually assume
We got it.
that, but if we're just saying to individuals, hey, can you go help cut this tree down?
Yeah, no, I get it, yeah. So I'm just saying, in the future, maybe we can look at something like that as well, having something like that too, if we have a problem. Then I'm sure the church over at the Lutheran church here, I'm sure they would have something like that, right?
I honestly don't know. Like I know there's,
Yeah,
Memorial Disaster Relief Services, there's Team Rubicon,
okay, yeah.
and Team Rubicon is activated through the state, so if that's something the state activates, then they get it activated through that.
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, I'm looking at a resource too.
Yeah, no, there's things we can look at.
Well, I mean, this seems like a good start.
Yeah.
So we have lots of notes and lots of things we can look into. And does it make sense, like in a few months, to schedule sort of one of these tabletop exercises, but maybe part of it is focusing on kind of breaking out these tasks and something along those
What would it
lines,
look like?
or?
Yeah, I mean, we could just do a tabletop meeting, let's not call it an exercise, because,
Okay, that has its own definition. Okay.
that would mean we're gonna run through something. But if we can just say, like,
Because we have these, right, the, oh, not this one, the tabletop exercises that we
Yeah.
had from that meeting in December. Could we like pick one, or, I feel like Limerick would be the best one to start with, just because that is a real, I feel like that's closest to home as something.
yeah, I mean, and we could go
need to know
over
how-
that separately as to
Maybe the
what that
first
looks
one and
like.
say, where do people, like, what roles could we fill and what do we need to do? And let's walk through this plan,
Right.
this template, and say, okay, so what does a plan look like specific for evacuating for Limerick? And what names do we fill in where? And maybe it's a different hat for different situations.
Right, but like you said, if we start with the Limerick, and then after that, maybe we can do another one in 6 months or
Yeah.
something that's kind of more along the lines of the straight winds, or, you know what I mean, something more
That's-
local,
Realistic.
yeah.
Yeah, then you'll want to do a tabletop. So one of the tabletops that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I wanted to do it when I was in Franklin, but could never do it just because of scheduling, but I do want to do it here when Frederick gets their EOP updated fully, is have a tabletop with them.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
And let's just sit down and hash this out.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're gonna bring in emergency services, or EMS, we're gonna bring in the fire company, we're gonna bring in, I'll try and get state police, but I can almost guarantee they're gonna say no, just because of their schedules. And then the township. And, you know, let's play this through, let's look at your EOP and let's be realistic at it.
Yeah.
You have, you know, the biggest thing we've had with them recently was their water bill rates. You know, and how.
Were they out of water when their water main?
Sewer sprinkler, right?
They're two, so over
Yeah, that's-
Christmas, 2 years ago now? Was it, I think? I think it's been 2 years.
Yeah, it was last year.
No, is it-
The one that's when we had the water issue?
Yeah.
was that last year?
Yeah.
2022. 2022.
Last
Yeah.
Christmas, 1 year ago.
So, they had in one facility, they had one part of the building that was under construction, their pipe burst. Affected a bunch of residents, got in the elevator shaft a couple days later, and the main rotunda pipe burst. So they had a perfect storm of two pipe bursts. One they could manage, the second one, it was the fire company, it was actually us and 37, it was Hanover. Two companies trying to help them figure out, A, where the pipe was burst, and B, where all their stuff was. In reality, is that our job? No, because we should have said, it's a pipe burst, that's on you guys helped figure this out. But they were, unfortunately, with all the stuff they had going on, they were kind of lost. So, yeah, we're gonna help you, but at some point, you've got to take this incident
Yeah.
over. So, and that's the thing we have to also look at when we do these is, at what point do we say, you know, we close the EOC, the incident returns to the fire company, or we close the EOC and, you know, it's up to the residents now to do with what they need to do. And then, for some of these, let's take Ida, for example, with all the flooding, it took 2 years for FEMA to get all the reports compiled and all that, and then open up for funding. So this is where the windshield surveys come into play, people reporting property damage. And that's the thing where we may not know they have property damage. We can't do anything. If
Yeah.
we're not notified and it doesn't make our notes for us to notify the county, which then puts that into our report for the state. A lot of people lost out on that because they were in the backwoods and, you know, damage happened to their house, tree went through, they never called 911, so nobody ever came out because they were fine, they just dealt with it on their own. When they went to try and get refunded, they was, sorry. So it comes down to, you know, let's make sure that part of this is, you know, we're reaching out to people. Is there any damage to your house? Was there anything done? we put it together, and that and the only way something will happen is if we do that disaster declaration. And that rides a fine line as to should we or shouldn't we. So there will be times where we need to enact a disaster declaration just for snowstorms, to keep cars off of snow emergencies. Which, did you see my email about that? Sorry.
I did, yeah, I
Good.
haven't had a chance to.
Train just caught up, sorry. And with that, that's just to keep people off the road. But if we do, but I will refer to the county a lot of times for some of the storms and go, do we think PEMA's gonna throw money at this down the line? Because they deal with PEMA on a daily basis, they're got their ears to the ground with it. And if they say no, then, we're just, let's hold off on that. We have 10 days, we have, I think, 10 days to do a disaster declaration,
Something like that.
something like that, yeah. So we can always go back and fill that out, but we have to look at it and go, is there a real possibility that funds may be available from the state or the federal government for this? If so, okay, let's do the disaster declaration and let's start making sure we're pictures and all that stuff.
Great. I think we have a lot to work with.
I think we do. I think we do. So the next topic is a discussion with the fire company representatives. This was just, put this on here, we've sort of been doing that through this conversation, but I thought it would be nice for you guys to have the representatives from the fire company here, if you guys wanted to ask any questions or vice versa. So I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to connect.
We did.
No?
Never,
Okay.
I just wanted, just to touch on something, when was the last time this discussion happened right here? What we just did here for the EOC?
This is the
I'm
first
being
one.
serious, I'm just curious. I know
Yeah.
you're saying in the past it was difficult, and so I'm just curious, like if you had to guess.
I don't know that
It's
it's ever
first time.
happened.
2016 is it, what you're thinking?
So that's when, so the plans were enacted, but all that needs to happen is.
So this year has never happened before.
Jerry may have done it in the past. I
Jerry may have before, yeah, maybe before.
But I know Chris was in it for a short time, that wouldn't have
Yeah.
happened. You did it, Barb did it, then me.
I know Barb, when Barb was the emergency management coordinator, we had talked about trying to coordinate something like this, and it just didn't happen.
Mhm.
So,
Good.
Here's
that's
my trick.
true.
You make sure that you
That's
do the
true.
plan so that it never happens. Because if you don't, stuff happens. So let's make sure that we
But the only thing.
make
is
sure we all know what we need to do.
So I
so
need
we
the
do need
resolution,
to adopt it and do the promulgation.
I need the resolution and promulgation from December.
Right, actually, I need you to sign it, it's sitting in there.
Okay,
You still have to sign
I'll
it.
sign that tonight. And then we need to do one at the next
Correct.
supervisors meeting for this one.
Right,
Having all three
So-
signatures and then we can send that out to the county.
right. So at your February meeting, we'll have this on the agenda for you guys to re-adopt. So it was adopted by the last board, it now needs to be adopted by you guys, with the understanding that we may be updating it, and you might get
So,
an
and the
updated
only
one
reason
later.
it has to be readopted is because when there's a change in 2 or more supervisors, it has to have the current supervisor signatures on it.
Okay. So that'll be in February, this will be on your agenda. Okay. All right, anything else?
I think we should now on the dead.
Okay.
So I guess what I would ask is, so I know currently the volunteers are non-existent, for any fire company out there. So I guess my question for you guys would be, what are we doing now to actively recruit? Or, what have we changed to try and get more recruits in?
We had yard signs out, this is a big push.
Right.
Actually, we were just at a meeting. Yeah, what was it, 30?
What was the percentage?
The county chiefs?
Yeah,
The response rates, so countywide, most of you probably saw the yard signs that went out. That wasn't just in Upper Frederick, that was in most municipalities of the county. The response rate and the actual volunteer rate in terms of applicants was significantly higher than what anyone would have expected.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
So that was actually a campaign that I think there was a little skepticism from the
A
start.
lot of it. It's
And
actually been adopted
it's-
down in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And as far as I understood, it started here, right? In Montauk?
Yes.
And it's now down in Jersey, statewide, because the response is, applicants, what, 80 some
I
odd
forget
percent
what
said it was
percentage.
for the yard signs.
Yeah, I forget.
Most of them were saying yard signs.
Something like
So
that.
how many applicants did you get?
Well, how many we had that come up? We
had
had
Trevor.
one that's actually, we voted in so far.
We had
and Trevor.
two sign up and they.
Two that approached us, so we actually, within the last 12 months, which is for our size of a municipality, pretty good for, if you look at
There
a
was a young
ratio.
lady, she applied to Perkiomen. Accidentally thought that she was in Perkiomenville, Perkiomen was her fire company.
Oh,
We got her info, I've reached out to her, I haven't heard back.
So we have one firefighter who actually came to us with all of his certificates because he just became a career firefighter in the city of Reading. So fortunately for us, that's the best kind of volunteer
Absolutely.
because they're already certified.
right.
And then I just thought we have actually one additional individual we voted in, she's going to be on the administrative side. So we actually have two that we voted in, and I think we had a few more that came up. And actually, so it's a good uptick. And I think what, you may have mentioned this before in one of the previous meetings, but I think we have a team that's dedicated to social media,
Yes.
pushing out a lot more on the social media side. So we seem to be generating a lot more activity there. Nothing I would say in terms of applicants that we probably have generated from that yet, but a lot more interest within just the
A
municipality.
lot more
in
people
general.
are following and watching. And also the other fire companies around us have
Yes,
adopted
correct.
what, you can tell. My wife actually wanted to point out, for Facebook, pretty much it would be radio silent after calls and stuff. Our team started putting out all the calls and what we've done and.
And we have a juniors program that's,
The
it's
juniors
amazing. We suspended it for the winter because we just can't get out and do everything, but I think we had 10 juniors. Two of them have graduated, moved on to become firefighters in our firehouse. So, and they actually do teamwork, bonding on Saturday nights, they'll get together with juniors from Gilbertsville, Lower Frederick, to go out to dinner, to go to different places. And we don't put, I mean, we help them out when we can, but it's them doing it.
Yeah. It's a brotherhood doing that.
These kids are
It's
just
whether you're in this
amazing.
one or there, it's.
Yeah, it's just.
And these kids you wouldn't think would show up, but they're there. And they were there all Monday night, we were washing the trucks inside.
Yeah.
And then you had Caitlin, who was going, she was signed up to go to Michigan for school, decided she liked to hear too much working with the fire company,
It's supposed to be career.
stayed here.
She would be career firefighter.
Parents are probably really happy about that.
Turn that.
So I'm gonna take a step back, actually, can I just ask, and I know some of you, who is actually representing our fire department here tonight? And I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
My name's Doug Kenna, I've been in the firehouse since 1977.
Okay.
He's our chief.
Oh, you're the chief, yeah, because I knew the name, you kept saying we gotta meet with Doug,
Yes.
and then I didn't know Doug's
Yeah.
face, so. And you're here, quite regularly, but I forget your name.
Frank Dorsey.
That's, okay.
Yeah, quite frankly, yes.
Yeah.
You could have stopped right there.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
That's why it's
I
unfamiliar.
I don't know if this is, but everything's gotten, like Dick Jarvis is with liability. I think one of the things that really takes away is so much training. Training after training, and it can hurt a home life because you're going to county.